right, so welcome to this conversation on 3 business time savers. And today I wanted to just kick off, not like necessarily with a story, but just wanted to share that, right now more than ever, there's, half my clients are super, super busy, so they need more time savers. And then half of my clients are bored. And I'm like, cool, well, that means you have time to implement these new systems and these new tools. So regardless of which camp you land in, this is a great opportunity for you to learn about these tools, which are amazing, amazing time savers. And I would say for me, the most important tool that I adopted was Acuity for my calendar. And boy, am I glad I adopted it before this happened, because scheduling would be super chaotic without it. It's kind of like having a cool virtual assistant. So today we're going to be covering 3 systems and 3 business time savers, and that's Acuity, Active Campaign, and Close. And if you're wondering what those are, don't worry, we're going to cover that too. So with that, before we dive into the agenda, I wanted to hear from everybody here, since we have a small, intimate group. You can come off of mute or add to the chat. What are you hoping to take away from today's session?
Can you hear me, Holly?
I can. Go ahead.
Yeah, great. So, I'm starting to do more online client contact, and I'd like to have the ability, I assume the Acuity has the ability to allow people to go onto a site somewhere and look at your open appointment times and then go ahead and plot themselves in. I've never had that before.
Yeah, that's great. So when we hop in there, I will definitely show you that. I will note that I have screenshots of this, because when I've tried this with the way the internet is, with everybody being on the network, it doesn't do well if I show you the system live. So, but if you go to my website too, you can see that is an example of Acuity. So any button on my website or under the schedule appointment is Acuity, and it embeds really quite beautifully onto the website.
Okay. And I've used a CRM for years, but I know that I'm underutilizing it.
Yeah.
I don't capture a lot. I have a web to lead. I think it's called on the landing page of my website. People can fill out a questionnaire about what they want more information about, and then that goes into my Zoho account, and then I get an email notification that somebody has been to my website and they've sent an inquiry to me.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, that's great.
So that I don't have to go anywhere. It just comes to me, and I see what leads are coming in.
That's great. Awesome. Let me admit this person. Okay, and I see in the chat, we have Sarah wants to know more about the other 2 programs. She's already using Acuity. Elaine wants to see if the things are talking to each other. It's like having 6 secretaries that don't speak to each other. Yeah, there's ways you can integrate some things there. And then Diane wants to know how Acuity is different than Calendly. It's interesting you bring that up. I had a call earlier today and somebody was asking about that. I am not an expert comparing the 2 systems, but I can tell you the things that Acuity does do and why it chose it. But it's been a while since I compared the 2, so I can't go too deep on that topic for you. All right, so this is our agenda today. We're going to cover these 3 systems as best we can. I'm going to highlight what we're going to cover on them, because they are really large, robust systems, so we can't cover everything, but it should be a nice starter to intermediate on these 3 tools and why you might want to consider using them. Even if you're using a different calendar scheduling tool or a different email automation marketing system, this is a great thing to look at, because you're going to get ideas and case studies and examples of how you can be better utilizing your current systems. All right, so let's dive right in. So what is Acuity? So Acuity is, like Diane was saying, she was hoping to compare Acuity to Calendly, which is another online calendar system. So it's kind of like having a virtual assistant to some degree. No more of that back and forth emailing people, like asking them what time works for you. Just send them your online calendar link. So you can decide the best times of day and block schedule your time, so people are booking you at the ideal time for you, whether it's a speaking call, a client call, a potential client call, a webinar, whatever that is. It's also nice because it integrates directly onto your personal calendar. You can also add Zoom directly to it. So for different types of meetings, you can actually have Zoom set up to be scheduled. You can have Zoom pre-record. So it's very robust in what you can do. You can also tie it to a payment gateway like Stripe or PayPal. So if you want people to buy a package or a single session, they can actually make a payment tied to that appointment as well. It's also really great because it helps you save time, simplify your onboarding process, and sets automatic reminders so that people don't cancel on you. Or if they do, they have the opportunity to reschedule within the tool versus taking your time to reschedule that, which is a huge time saver. And then also it includes custom intake forms for each appointment. You can do that. You can set that up. This is really great so that your appointments and your schedules feel much more personalized and you can really dive in deep with your clients faster. Also, you can look at those forms ahead of time, and if they're not a good match for you, you might cancel the appointment and refer them to somebody else, especially if you're in the service industry. So a huge, huge time saver. So if you look at all these together, it's kind of like having a really nice virtual assistant. So that's what Acuity is. So the pricing and the different levels of what you can have in Acuity. So there's the freebie. The problem with the freebie is it doesn't, I don't think it integrates with your calendar, but you can play around with that. I think it's not as integrated into what you're trying to do. I'm using Emerging, so you're able to integrate it, tie it into your calendar, so tie it to a personal one. So for example, I have my business account calendar and my personal. I have to make sure everything's scheduled on the business one because that's what it is actually synced to. So let me admit somebody here to the room. This is so weird. I don't know why it's doing that and now it's not admitting people. My apologies. All right, the growing package. So this one is very popular and it's great if you're trying to do subscriptions and memberships. So if you're selling a service package, so for example, if I have a 12-pack of some kind of service, you can have somebody pay for that and then Acuity tracks when they've used that. So let's say they've used 3 of 12 appointments, you can look at their subscription, and it also lets you know and the client know when they're close to the end of that package so they can start thinking about renewing. And then the Powerhouse has a lot more sophisticated things you can do, including custom API and CSS, which is just fancy lingo for making it look really pretty on your website and doing more coding and cool things. And then there's a lot of other things you can do there, including the HIPAA compliance, which might be important depending on the field that you're working in. So if you're a therapist, you would certainly want to make sure you're using Powerhouse. So that's the pricing and license model. And if it feels like we're going fast, it's because we are, because there's so much you can do with all of these. Yeah. All right, so this next part here, this is what the Acuity landing page, the homepage looks like. And the reason that I'm taking screenshots of this and not showing these live is because there's like real content in here. And also because the system would be too slow and I'd be hopping across 3 things. So my apologies, it's not a live demo, but this is the best I can do. And I've taken screenshots of what I think would be most helpful. So if you look at the left-hand side here, you have your calendar schedule, you have your appointments, and you have an expansion of the appointments in the center. You also have a lot of things you can navigate across on the left-hand side, including you can look at your clients, you can look at reports. We're going to look at some of this in more detail in a bit. Your scheduling page link, which we'll also dive into in a minute. You can have multiple types of calendars and types of ways to schedule. So I have my Acuity page open and I'm frequently using the scheduling page link so that when I have somebody contact me for networking, I say, schedule it here. If it's a speaking thing, schedule it there. And there are different types of links with different types of availability. For speaking calls, I'm only doing a phone call. And for other things, I'm doing Zoom calls. Some are pre-recorded. So that's what the interface looks like when you just log straight in on the back end of your Acuity platform. From there, you have your availability setup and your Acuity calendar. So on this page here, this is where you have a grouping of appointment types. So you're setting these up individually as appointment types and into groups. Now, why would you need groups? So the groups are correlated with the availability that you're setting. So different types of groupings have different availability. So for example, I was just sharing with Elaine and Tim earlier that I'm going to stop offering coaching calls on Tuesdays and Thursdays so that I have more time to do content development, marketing, other things versus Zoom calls because it's a little exhausting. So I'm going to be bucketing my availability into different time chunks. And so my group will be changing. So you want to make sure that your appointment is tied to the correct group with the correct availability and limits. All right. Now, the next thing is you want to make sure you sync your calendar. So you don't want it overbooking your stuff on your personal or business calendar, whatever you choose to integrate with. And depending on your license, you can integrate with more calendars than one. So you choose the calendar you're integrating with. You make sure that it's blocking off time on your appointment calendar for that one so that it's putting it into one solution so you can see your entire list of appointments for the week. You can also set up automatic reminders on that calendar. So that is great. Let's see. Sorry, my screen is doing something wonky. This Zoom update is killing me today. All right. Yeah, so that's basically all you need to do there for your setup on Acuity. Now, appointment types, you can have as many or as few as you'd like. And there's a few different differentiations across each of these. So you'll notice some of these have 30-minute chunks, and then there's some that have 15 minutes of padding after. That's because I know that some appointment types are likely to go over. So I want to make sure that I have time for bio breaks and resetting my Zoom for my next call, and so that calls do not bleed into each other. So I recommend using padding between your appointments so that you're not rushed, you have a break, and you look really professional. You'll also notice that a couple of these appointments have private next to them. So private ones are generally things that are actually paid appointments. So once a client sets up a coaching package with me, it's a private link so that when I embed my Acuity public link into my email signature, it's not showing any of the private links because those are only sent to paid customers for them to book. So there's a lot of things you can do there. If you were to click edit on any of these, you can change the buffer, you can change the color that's listed for that type of appointment because that shows up as a specific color code on your calendar. So it can be a nice bird's eye view of your day or your week. And you can also grab the direct scheduling link for each appointment type on this page as well. If you wanted to create a new service type, you simply click the button at the top left-hand corner here that says new service type or a new type of group class. So those are how you would set new ones up. All right, so in terms of if you were adding that new service, if you clicked that button, you said add a new service, this is the page, what it would look like. So you create a name for the appointment type. It should be really clear, really simple for your customer to understand. You decide the duration of that. You can also block or pad your time before and after, or just one. You can set a price and set this up tied to Stripe or PayPal for payment. You can choose a category. I haven't really used the categories yet. You can also, on the right-hand side, you'll see forms. You can, once you've created your forms, which we'll look at in a minute, you can checkbox the form that you want tied to that appointment so that they are asked to put in the answers to those questions, basically. So there's quite a few things you can do for setting up the new service type. You can even choose colors. There's a million different settings you can use here. So then we get into payment, appearance, and integrations. So in terms of your payment, you can set up the payment and the currency type. You set up either Stripe or PayPal or whatever your integration is, and you can learn about the different processors actually under integrations. So generally, before setting up your payment settings, you would do your integration setup, which would generally be Stripe for most of you. Make sure that that's enabled. Another common one is Zoom because you want your video conferencing capabilities working with Acuity. there's quite a few other things that Acuity integrates with. So you can look at the tools you're using, like Elaine said, the 6 secretaries that are not speaking, and you can start integrating those so that they are talking and working in concert together. In terms of the payment, like let's say you've integrated Stripe, you have that set up, you simply select the currency that you want. So obviously we're the United States, so USD. You choose the payment processor like Stripe, and then you can say if you require full payment or you have a payment plan, and you save those settings. Now, in terms of appearance, you can set up monthly or daily. You title the name of your business, and you can add your logo as well as the colors of your brand. So you can actually brand quite a few things within Acuity. And I know this is really fast, but I want to share as much as I can on these. And in the future, I'm going to break these into individual workshops because it's a lot. All right, Acuity schedule emails and reminders. So one of the reasons I love Acuity is because it sends really beautifully branded reminders to your client, and it's personalized. So it will say you have a new appointment scheduled, and it says to the person's name, it says what, when, and where, and they can add it to any type of calendar that they have so that they don't forget. And they get reminders that look really beautifully branded again, which is really great. So you're not sending reminders constantly and worried about your people not showing up. In terms of forms, so if you went to on the left-hand navigation and you were creating a new form tied to an appointment, you can create all kinds of different form questions. They're custom. You can select a text box question, which is they're typing in text. You can do a drop-down list, and you would type in the different lists that you want them to choose from. You could do a checkbox so if they're selecting multiple. So it's kind of like creating a survey, which I think most of us are probably familiar with, but you can play around with this and get really great information so that you're professional and prepared for that call with that person. This really is helpful because before I hop on a call, I can spend 15 minutes, or if I have more time the week ahead, I can look deeper, look at the website for the person I'm reviewing, having a call with. And it just gives you more intel so that your conversation is much more productive and personal. Acuity calendar links. So I showed you earlier on the homepage on the left-hand side that you have your Acuity links. And I said I leave that open throughout the day as a tab so that I can constantly pull the different links that I need for scheduling. So the only way this works for you is if you use it. So when somebody asks you to schedule an appointment, you want to use Acuity and send them a link to schedule that appointment. Now, this is obviously trickier for in-person appointments, but you can make it work. You just have to give yourself more buffers and probably have some limitations if there's a big geographical distance between appointments. From here, what's great is you can pull your general scheduling page, which shows everything except for your private listed appointments. And I have that in my email signature tied to my calendar button. And if you click that, you can schedule any type of meeting with me. And anytime somebody asks me for an appointment, I'm sending them to Acuity to schedule that. All right, that's Acuity. All right, we survived Acuity. And this is one of the easier ones, believe it or not. All right, so I wanted to hear from you all, and I wanted to see what action you're committed to taking in order to simplify your schedule, possibly using Acuity or a different tool. So if you want to come off of mute and share or send something in the chat box, now is the time.
Can I ask you a quick question about Acuity?
Yeah.
Functionality, like what I would take action on is I've been scheduling my own appointments with my clients, manually in my own calendar. But if I went in and scheduled an appointment using Acuity for a client, I'm assuming then it would enable that Acuity to go ahead and send the reminders.
Yes, that's a great question. So sometimes I'll have people that don't want to schedule it, and we're chatting face to face, and I'm like, okay, cool. So I'll log into Acuity and I'll schedule it for them. But the only problem there is that you don't get the intake questions answered. But you can do that for them.
Okay.
Because I forgot. Let's just switch.
Great. Anybody else? Any questions or
Wait, switch the chicken. Yeah.
comments?
Hi. Are there any questions that you think are a must to ask in the equity forms?
Can you repeat that, Linda?
Are there any questions that you think are a must to ask before they schedule?
That's so great. So it depends on the service that you're providing for that appointment. So for example, when I have for my intake form for my coaching clients, potential coaching clients for the discovery call, one, if they don't fill it out, they're not going to be a good client for me because they're not very coachable if they can't follow those simple instructions. Two, I ask them, where they are right now, where they're having challenges, their goals for the next 30 to 90 days, so that I can see pretty quickly if I can actually address their problem. So that's a really specific question. So you have to really think about your ideal client for that service. And you want to ask questions to make sure that you're weeding out people that are not going to be a good fit. And the questions that you would want to know before hopping on that call so that you're not wasting time. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Is there any limit to the questions so that people, don't find the survey too long to register?
Yeah, so that's a really good one too. So I would say probably keep it close to 7 at the most, and they should be optional. So my intake form, I think, is 6 or 7 questions, but most of them are optional questions, and a couple of them are required. That way, and actually most people fill it out. They can actually sometimes write a book summary, and I'm like, wow, this is a lot of information. So I would also experiment with it. So you could try A to B testing, where you do one where it's 5 questions, and then you try one that's 7 questions, and see what's working best for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And then I see Elaine commented, she wants to streamline her survey questions, wants to list her challenges and how acuity might, okay, great. Yeah. Good. This is good stuff. Diana, I'm sorry that I'm not able to answer how it's different than Calendly. Apparently, I need to add that to the arsenal, and I will look at that. But I just got that question today at like 4 o'clock and didn't have time to do a deep dive on that, so my apologies. All right. So Active Campaign. This is our next tool we're learning. So Active Campaign is essentially a software that helps around customer experience automation. And if you're like, what does that mean? It simply means that it's helping you get more personalized information out to your list. Now, this means you're doing email marketing, you're doing marketing automation, and sales automation, depending on the license that you buy with Active Campaign, as well as you're possibly using some CRM with Active Campaign. Now, we're also covering Close, which is a CRM. That's customer relationship management tool. But Active Campaign has a CRM. So I recommend, if you can afford it, just use Active Campaign. I am currently using Active Campaign and Close simply because I found the CRM for Active Campaign overwhelming, and I'm a techie, so that is saying something. We're also only going to cover email marketing, forms, and automation today because Active Campaign is an amazing tool, but it is overwhelming. They have a lovely onboarding class once you sign up, and I highly recommend following all those videos because I can only kind of scratch the surface of the possibility of Active Campaign and most automation tools for marketing. But that's where we're going to focus today. And then it also is going to help with building your list, keeping your list engaged, and that's obviously a huge part of being successful in business. All right, so those are kind of the key points around what it is as a platform. Now, here's the licensing and pricing model. So you have Lite, which includes unlimited sending, email marketing. I'm not going to read through the list. Plus Professional and Enterprise. Now, I noticed, because I took the screenshot recently, they are upselling their CRM sales automation with, I believe, Professional and above. whereas it used to be more expensive and was not included. So that's kind of a deal that if you're looking to move to something, you might want to look at that. I am currently using Lite. The other thing to be aware of is that there are a limit of the number of contacts that you can have before they upsell you and charge you more. So once you get past, I think it's 500 contacts in there, they start charging you. And so one of the sneaky ways you can get around that is I am using Close, my CRM, and adding a lot of people there and not necessarily adding them to the full list, because not everybody wants to be part of my regular mailing list, but I want to keep in touch with them. So that's why for me it's been useful to have them as two separate tools. Otherwise I'd be paying a lot more money because my list is really big. So that's the pricing model. When you log into ActiveCampaign, this is what the homepage looks like once you have it set up. So it has your contacts in there, it has news, it has all the automations that you have running, and if they're active or not. It shows you how to quickly get to different templates that you've created or ones that they have ready for you. It gives you recent activity and quite a bit of information at a quick glance. The left-hand navigation has your contacts, which you can dig into more. And that's also where you would go to upload new contacts from an Excel file or import them. Or download your list if you wanted to pull it into another system. It has campaigns. So campaigns are essentially your emails that you're sending. They can be one-off emails or automated campaigns where you have like a welcome email series, which is very typical for websites. We're also going to be covering forms. Forms would be great for your website or social media. So that's how you build your list. Is you have forms where you might have a giveaway, and in order to get that gift or that giveaway, they have to put their email address in there, and then it is automatically triggered through an automation. And so forms and automations, if easily used, are they go together. You have to use them together, otherwise it's manual at that point. So that's your home. To add contacts, you click contacts in the left-hand navigation. You can export, import, or add individual contacts. So it's pretty straightforward in terms of managing that. And then you can see as you click contacts, it gives you additional options for managing scoring and tags, etc. In terms of tagging, which we'll look a little bit in automation on this, but tagging allows you to personalize things and target your audience even better. So tags in this as well as Close are really important. So let's say, for example, somebody comes in, gets a free gift from me. I'm going to add a tag that they opted in for that gift. If they then attend a webinar, I'm going to add a tag that they attended that webinar. The more engagement you have with these individuals, it gives you a better picture of their interest level in engaging with you in the future. So tags are really, really important. All right. In terms of importing the contacts, if you clicked that import button from the last page, you have a lot of options. You can simply pull in from an Excel or CSV file, or you can use some of the integrations that are listed as images below. So if you're using those systems and you wanted to import them into ActiveCampaign to add to your list, that's how you would do that. In terms of campaigns, so if you're doing email marketing, then you would go to your campaign button and you would select the journey you want to go on. So you can do a standard one-time email. You could create an automated, and you see some of these other options here. So what's really nice about ActiveCampaign is they've already set some of these journeys up for you, kind of like if you used a more fancy Salesforce platform. So if you're doing standard, that's like your one-off email, but you can schedule it, which is really nice. So let's say you're doing bi-weekly emails or once a month newsletters, you can do a standard one-off that goes to your list and schedule it. So you're not sitting there waiting to push the button. In terms of automated, you would use an automated campaign for your welcome series. So let's say somebody joins your list through a gift or to follow your blog or whatever kinds of forms you have set up. you can then have an automated email welcome series that goes out to them. Now, if there's interest in that, we could always do a totally separate webinar on email campaigns, but that would be the full hour because that's pretty in-depth. So this is how you would start to build a campaign. Once you select the campaign type you want, you're shown a template. So you'd select either from one of their existing templates, or you have you can create your own templates that you repeat, which is really nice so that it looks consistent and cohesive for your brand. What's also cool is you can do some personalization. So you see it says hello first name with some coding around that. That's because from the right-hand side, you can select that you want to personalize it, and it gives you options that you can use to personalize it. So you can use their first and last name. There's other ways you can personalize too. You can also change the font. You can change the color. You can add and upload your own images. So you can do pretty much anything you'd like, and it's a really nice interface. It doesn't require that you use coding. It looks really nice. If you know HTML, you can actually edit it within HTML as well. So that's campaigns. Well, not quite. So then the next step in campaigns is you add your subject. And I was just doing this for screenshot, so it says test. Obviously, your subject should be more clear than that. You could also have pre-header text. You want to make sure it's from your business email, have a reply to, and also select the list you're sending it to. You can have more than one list. You could have lists plus tags that you're sending it to if it's a really personalized, specific group of people you're targeting. So you can set that up and be very sophisticated in your marketing. All right, so that was campaigns completed. Now we have automations and forms, and they kind of go together because I don't really understand why you might have a form if it wasn't automated, but maybe that's just me because I'm techie. So in terms of automations, you go to the left-hand navigation and you select that, and then they have really beautiful recipes that are ready for you. So if you're kind of like, well, what would I do? Just go to all the recipes. There's hundreds and thousands of them, and I'm sure it will get your creativity thinking cap on so that you can think about all the possibilities of what you could do to grow your list and using forms and automations. It's pretty amazing. But let's say that the recipe doesn't exist. You can just move forward and do your own automation. So these are some examples of my automations, and it might look like, whoa, what is happening? So I wanted to walk you through the one on the far left. So basically there's 3 different ways people could come into this automation. Those are the top 3 gray boxes that you see. Contact submits from the sign up for the blog. That's a link that I've created, that's a form. They could also tag blog sign up as added. So like if I manually add them and I add the tag that they've signed up for the blog, it would trigger this automation as well. So when Tim asks, can I schedule them? The same thing, you can add them to the list manually and it would trigger this automation. Once they do that, those 2 triggers happen. It then automatically subscribes them to my master contact list because they're opting in for that. It adds a tag that says they joined the blog because we want that personalization to understand the engagement level of our contact. It then sends a welcome email. And once you're building the automation, each time you add an email, it then prompts you to design that email. So that email is already designed and ready to go. And then from there, it says, does the contact match the following conditions? Has it opened any campaign, yes or no? And then if yes, it goes somewhere else. And if no, it goes somewhere else. And then it ends the automation. So you can do pretty complex or relatively simple automations. And the one that's most commonly used is your welcome email series. That would be automated. So if they sign up for your mailing list, you'd have a welcome email and you might have a follow-up for them. And then they go into your list of biweekly or monthly newsletters. So that's automations and forms. And we have a little bit more on that. So once you've built a form, And if you look at the top left-hand corner, you can see that is an example of a very simple form. It just says their name and email address because they're signing up for 5 strategies for a sustainable business. And that can live on your website, so you can embed that. So how you embed that is you would click on the next image to the left, the integrate button. If you click that, it gives you on the right-hand side all of your options for integration. You can embed it onto your website, which is what a lot of people do for building their list. You can grab a link if you're going to try to use it for social media. You can pull WordPress if your website is based on that. And you can also integrate the form into your Facebook business page. So there's pretty savvy things that you can do with ActiveCampaign forms. All right, that was a lot. And there's a lot more that you can do with ActiveCampaign, but that's all we can cover in this kind of short forum. So I would love to hear from you guys what questions you have and what you're committed to do in terms of ramping up your marketing or ramping up some of the automation or forms that you could use with ActiveCampaign. So if you want to come off of mute or add to the chat. Are you guys still with me? Have I lost you? How does it compare to Infusionsoft? That is a great question. I have honestly not looked at Infusionsoft recently. I think it's a little more affordable than Infusionsoft, depending on the level of license that you're buying. And that's all I can say, honestly, Diane. You're really grilling me on these technology comparisons. I'll have to ramp my game up and get back to you on that. Thanks. Sarah says she uses MailChimp for campaigns, trying to use her email more regularly, but doesn't want to send more than her clients want or need. Yeah, you could send an email to your clients and say, hey, how frequently would you like to hear from me? And what kinds of information would you like to hear from me? And right now is a great time to do that, so you can really hear them and listen to them and make sure you're pivoting correctly. Why did I decide to use ActiveCampaign? I looked at like a lot of different systems, and my business coach was using ActiveCampaign, and I really liked her forms and the way she was using the email marketing. I loved that they had really excellent training and onboarding, because most of these systems, especially since my corporate background is in Salesforce, which is really, really complex at times. And this was more simple and not too expensive. MailChimp I used initially, and I had some problems with it, and their support team was not great. So the other reason I chose it was because they have excellent support. Tim says he needs to further investigate ActiveCampaign. Automation goes over my head. Yeah, automation, until you kind of just map out what you're trying to do, does feel overwhelming. But basically automation, you're just step-by-step mapping out what you would like to happen. And really, once you start going through the recipes and you go through the training, it gives you a lot of ideas. You could even go on YouTube and find free videos on ActiveCampaign automations to get ideas before signing up. And I think they have a free trial you could check out. Lane says, I used MailChimp a long time ago with some success. The last time I looked at it, wondering if it's easier now. Yeah, I mean, I think MailChimp is great as well. It has some nice templates. It's not as sophisticated with what it can do in terms of automations and forms, because it's just a mailing tool compared to ActiveCampaign, which is a marketing automation tool. So it allows those forms and allows you to integrate and do quite a few things. I've never established an email list or campaign. Yeah, so one of the key takeaways with these 3 tools we're covering is I really believe that these 3 tools are the pillar of a successful business. If you don't have these 3 tools and you're not using them, you're leaving money on the table, and you're not personalizing your customer's journey or experience as much as you could. So I don't really care which tech you choose, as long as you're using it. You want to grow your list. You want to provide value and services to people. And if you're not putting that out there and building it, somebody else is going to, take that. I have to believe that I have something to say that an email list of one. Yeah. So that this is really a great time for people to connect with their client base and check in with them. People are feeling very scared, very vulnerable. Some people have a lot of time on their hands, so they're more likely to actually respond to you. So it's a great time to be really curious and check in with your clients and see what they want to hear and see how frequently they want to hear from you. Ask them what in the past has worked really effectively for them so that you can personalize in a way that is really effective for your clients. And then that will help you reach future clients, potential clients as well. So great points. All right, if there are no more questions, we're gonna go into our, oh, there's somebody that I had to admit again. We're gonna go into our last tool. All right, Close. So Close is a customer relationship management tool. It allows you to track your client contact details, their birthdays, and notate things about your relationship to them and how you know them. Because I don't know about you, but I, before this, was meeting 100 people a week, and there's no way I'm gonna remember 100 people a week. That's just not humanly possible. And so I have to enter their business cards and the notes that I write on their business cards into my CRM so that when I reach out to them, I remember who they are and can actually have a personal email sent to them. It also allows you to track your contact across email, text, phone, and social media, which is pretty cool. And it also, this is my favorite part, reminds you when you need to reach out to them. So this is a pivotal thing. You can even add your family to your CRM. So, let's say you want to stay in touch with your immediate family every week. You can set them, put them in the right stage, and your CRM will say, hey, you have not reached out to your mom or your daughter for a week. You need to do that. So it's a great way to just keep your relationships on track and healthy. This is the pricing license model for Close. So you have Pro. I'm actually using the Pro level, and it gives you all the things you see listed there. You can go all the way up to Platinum, and I would say really Pro is great unless you have a team. I think most of the people on this call are going to be either Pro or Silver. Unless you have a really large company that you're scaling right now, then you probably want to look at Gold or Platinum. Trying to keep that really simple because I'm going to send the deck out to you later so you can look at this more carefully and discern what is going to be the best thing for you right now. So when you log into Close, I'm showing you a view of companies by stage because this is my actual Close, and this is why I'm not demoing it because it's confidential information. It's people's contacts. But let's pretend this said contacts by stage. Imagine these were people and not companies. On the left-hand side, you would see their name and some detail below that. And the stages are important. You can define your stages, but I feel like these are pretty accurate. And essentially, you're assigning people to the different stages, which are essentially contact types. So if somebody's a lead, you tag them as a lead. If they're a potential client, you tag them as that. And for active, you'd have that there. So I'm partnering with the chamber, so they're considered active. I was doing work at CSU and Salesforce, so they're active. And then you have inactive companies that you've done things in the past with, or it could be contacts, and then lost opportunities so that you're not reaching out to them because they're lost. Your far left-hand navigation has your agenda, so you can look at that so you know what to do for the day. And we'll see these in more detail in a moment. Your inbox, people, companies, etc. So if we go a little bit further into the contacts. So again, the top picture there shows people by stage, and I did not show an actual image of that because that would be real people, and I didn't feel like that would be appropriate. But if I was looking at my agenda for the day, the left-hand image there is showing the things that are coming up for the next 7 days. I didn't show an extensive view of that because, again, it's live in real time. And then if you were to edit a contact, so let's say you navigated to a specific contact for your agenda, you're reaching out to them, and you wanted to update their contact information, that middle image is what that looks like. You do want to make sure that you don't just enter their contact info, but you click on the About tab as well. Sometimes when it loads them in, it doesn't put in their first and last name separately, which is important for automation later and other things. And you want to be able to add like more detail about them, like their title, the name of their company, and that's under About. And just make sure you could add as much information as possible when you capture business cards, meet new contacts through BNI or whatever. You can also, for contacts, import or export into the tool. So if you wanted to import stuff from your active campaign account or another tool, you can do that really easily. And if you want to export your closed contacts to another tool, you can do that as well. When I tried that, I was, I'm going to pull all my contacts from closed into active campaign. I was like, I have thousands of contacts, so I'm not going to do that because that would be really expensive. So that's closed home and contacts. So let's say we're looking at a contact, and Dean, if you're on here, my apologies, you're in here. My boyfriend I pulled up as a contact because I figured he'd forgive me for sharing his information. Our relationship strength on the right-hand side, you can see is really strong. So that's pretty cool. It's not 100%, so we have a ways to go. But it shows you your timeline. You have some different tabs across the top. You can select social, you could select files, and then there's the to-do, and you'll see the little green dot. That means that there's some action that I still need to take in terms of that contact. And since we're working together, there's probably an email or a follow-up I need to send to him. You also see on the right-hand side under relationship and contact info, that's where you're selecting your stage. Now, Dean is not any of those things. He's family. So under other, you would just select family or just a connection. So they have additional things that you wouldn't track in a stage. The relationship strength you can customize. You can change that. But it's simply just talking about the different ways you're engaging across that relationship to say if it's healthy or not. At the bottom, you'll see related people. So this is where you'll be able to know all the people that are connected through Dean. And we have a lot of people in common, so there's a lot of little faces down there. And at the very bottom, you can also add notes about a contact. So let's say you were editing a contact and you wanted to add notes because you learned more about them personally or professionally, had a meeting. You want to make sure you're diligent about adding notes so that you can track that information over time. Close settings. So there are a lot of things you can do with settings. So I highly recommend you go in there and explore the settings. And they do have a free trial, so you can try that. And their support is amazing. I love close support. They're phenomenal. But some of the settings I wanted to call out for you, you have your assistant. So this is kind of like Elaine saying those 6 secretaries, you want them to be proficient. So you can say for the different stage types, how frequently you want to keep in touch with them. And that's a personal choice. So for my client leads, I want to keep in touch with them every 2 weeks. Eventually, if they move from a lead to the other stage that's below that, then it's less frequently. With active clients, every week. With inactive clients, etc. So you set the frequency of the stage so that your close agenda is alerting you when you need to stay in touch with those contacts by the stage that they're in. You also can integrate across a lot of different accounts. You can integrate on your email account. You can add your Evernote notes. So if you use Evernote to take notes about a client, you want to integrate that. You can add Facebook, other social links, and you can also connect your phone. Now, I have not been able to connect to Verizon yet, so I have to call them when this is not crazy because I can't get through to support. But eventually, they'll see text messages and phone calls that are related to a contact, and it would track it for you auto-magically, which is really cool. All right, so then close reports. I just wanted to show you guys a couple extra cool things. So you can pull reports on how active you are across different quarterly segments. You can see how many emails and calls you've had. Obviously, I can't get the Verizon thing to work, so that's not showing. and then activity across multiple areas. So that's really, really great. Gives you a bird's eye view of how well you're actually using your list. This is another version of that, digging a bit deeper. So it shows, that I reached out to 4,700 people in the last 7 days, which is why I'm losing my voice. 229 companies. And yeah, so then it also shows that, how much mail was in bulk, how much was not in bulk. So I'm using the automated tool, so a lot of it is in bulk. You want to be receiving more than you're sending, but right now is a weird time, so it is what it is. And it shows what type of stage of the contact you've interacted with, and how you've interacted with them. So this is a great productivity check-in to see where you are doing well and what you need to pivot on for your time. All right, that was a lot. So I'd love to hear any questions that you have and your ideas for CRM and what you are going to take action on in terms of your CRM. You can come off of mute if you'd like, or type in the chat. You guys still here with me? Okay, I see Elaine waving. Everybody else turn their video off. Another of my colleagues is using HubSpot. I like that a lot. Can you comment? Yeah, I tried HubSpot for a while, Diane. I kept having really weird integration issues with Gmail, and I contacted their support and they couldn't resolve it. So I gave up on it. So that's why I'm not using HubSpot. But I hear a lot of people that have had really good success with it. So I think it's a great tool as well. I didn't notice that HubSpot had quite as nice of a like one-page place to look at how you're performing, and I don't know that they have the sophisticated reporting, but that's one of the reasons I love Close, is because they have that bird's eye view with the agenda. So I don't know that HubSpot does that.
Okay, Holly,
Yeah.
How do you determine which CRM goes with your product or your company? They all have so many different angles. Even just the basic plans seem like there's so many boxes that, how do you determine? I have a nonprofit.
Yeah, so you have to decide how you're going to use the CRM. And if it's really sophisticated needs, then you want to get something fancier. If you're simply looking to track and have a better relationship and take notes, then you want to choose something that's more simple and more affordable. If you're working across a team, you want to make sure that the license you select, regardless of the platform, allows multiple people to be on it so that you can all see the CRM information and update it. And there's like a million other things. Like that's honestly something that I did incorporate, was help them select the right tool for the right need.
That seems to be absolutely the overwhelming part, is this, there's so many products.
Yeah. And honestly, I researched quite a few CRMs, and I even spoke with Salesforce for small businesses, but their product was so hard to learn and expensive. And I worked with them for years, and I was like, this doesn't make any sense. Even with their 50% discount that they gave me, it was atrociously pricey. So for me, I went with Close because it's simple. It keeps me on track. It's a bird's eye view of my agenda. I can select the stages I want. It's not overly complicated. I'm not having to use code to update things. And from what I researched, which I think I researched about 20 systems, this was the easiest and most affordable.
Affordable, yeah, the key word there.
Yeah, CRMs are expensive. So you could also look at ActiveCampaign, but based on what I know about you and your team, I would say Close is more simple. And if people are not techie, it's a better platform. So Linda said, do you get any recommendations, leads on contacts that would be great for business or that are similar to people who are active in your business? Linda, can you come off of mute and explain what you mean?
So what I mean is people that are similar to your ideal customers that you already have in your CRM that are somehow connected to those customers.
Oh yeah, everybody's like third degree of separation. So of course, yeah, and that's great because then you know more about them and you can have that personal connection, and that's awesome too. That's why the CRM is great because then you can say, oh, I see we share a connection. You know, Sarah, how are things going with you? Tim says, I realize what I'm doing is totally outdated. I have been keeping handwritten notes. Yeah. So Zoho from Salesforce, but Close is something I want to look into. I have heard really good things about Zoho, and I did look at that at one point. I think I didn't research that before I went with the systems that I chose, but I have heard great things about it. So I'm not sure you should move away, but just utilize your system more fully. And then if there are gaps, then you could consider moving. Sarah says, I find Acuity great for keeping information about my contacts. Are there certain reasons you use Close for that? Yes, because it tells me interactions on social media, phone calls, beyond that, people that are correlated across contacts and connections. I can add more detailed notes around people. So every time I'm meeting with a client, potential client, partner, I'm adding notes about that. It's much more sophisticated. If there's one thing you all walk away from, you have to have a CRM. Like you really need it. If you want to be really great at what you do and maintain your relationships, you can't fully depend on your brain. Like we can't remember everything. So I highly recommend finding a CRM that works for you. Now, these are the 3 that I've selected, and I think they're great, but you have to find the right fit for you. And I think we've shared enough case examples around how you would use them, regardless of the tool that you select. So I'm not big on like, this is the tech you must use, but you need to find something that works for you. All right. We're close to our time, so I'm just going to share that if you feel overwhelmed by this, I am here to help. We can put together a really small fit package for you, whether it's coaching or consulting, to dive deeper on one or all of these systems. I also do business coaching. Here to help, not push anything on you. If you are actually interested in going deeper into coaching or need help from a consulting perspective to implement one of these tools, I'm happy to offer a free 30-minute session so that we can get to know each other and see how we can put together a package that fits your specific needs. So I'll be emailing out a copy of the deck, and I'll also send that link for you to schedule that appointment if that's something that you need help with today. Here's my contact information, and I'm just going to skim right over because I also have additional resources for you. So I have some videos that I hand selected for you on all 3 of the tools. So you have some videos and some help and support so you can navigate and investigate them further at your leisure to see what's the best fit for you. And I encourage you to look at other tools as well to make sure that you're finding what's fitting best for you. Holly, if you're still on here, I wanted to thank you for the Chamber co-sponsoring this event.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you. This is great.
Yeah, so the Chamber has been just really amazing during this crazy time and putting out amazing resources for all of us business owners. And just thank you so much for everything that you do.
Thank you. Absolutely.
Great. Well, I'm happy to stay on if anybody has any more questions. Otherwise, that's it for today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Allie.
Thanks.
Thank you, Holly.
Thank you. All right, you guys stay healthy. Have a great night.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Holly.
You
Good
too.
night.
Good night. Bye.